Hello everybody, Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. Just decided to shoot a quick video while I'm on the way to the gym. I hope you guys have had a chance to check out the segment I did with the Sunrise Project it was actually done on February 7th. It's up now for them, and I posted it on my YouTube channel for the Black Voice, focused on Black love, Black marriage, and the importance of it as it pertains to providing a secure and safe environment for our children. I hope you have a chance to check it out. If you haven't done so already, definitely check it out after you watch this short video that I'm going to do here. On yesterday, Marion, for those of you who don't know, Marion is my wife, my heart, my pulse. She posted an image that was representative of the wealth gap that exists between blacks and whites. And for those who aren't familiar with the wealth gap, it is something that is actually widening. It has widened since the 60s and civil rights movement, where everybody would assume, with all of the quote-unquote policies and changes and voting rights and everything else that we received, that we would in some way see a closing of the wealth gap. That has been non-existent, and we are actually seeing the wealth gap widen. Now, for those of us who have spent a great deal of time studying the existence of this gap and how this gap was created and how this gap is sustained and actually expanded upon, we understand that it's not as simple as people would like to make it. We understand that it's a highly convoluted reality that's based upon a lot of things. And what happened is, one of Marion's white colleagues from the real estate industry, for those who don't know, Marion is a real estate agent. One of two things she does. She's also a tax consultant. But anyway, the person comes on and basically gives the white response to poverty and the inability to build wealth, and basically single parenting is at the top of the list. Then don't get married before you're 25, graduate high school. So basically, education, family structure, and a couple other things. Now, anyone who understands, absolutely, one of the greatest contributors to poverty is single parenting. You have men, on one instance, which are the progenitors, having to take care of multiple households. That stretches their resources, and unless you're already financially set, it's almost impossible to build anything when you get yourself caught up in a situation like that. That's not where the problem lies. The problem lies in the implicit idea that the reason blacks are at 17,000 median wealth while whites are at 177,000 is because blacks have a exorbitantly higher divorce rate than whites. We're slightly higher. I mean, less than a full percentage point. So that's not it. That whites are so much more educated than blacks. That's not it. Over the last 30 years, the increased rate of black matriculation is phenomenal. Blacks are getting education, but blacks are finding that they're getting more in debt to get their education, and they're not getting the return on their investment. That's one thing that contributes. But we must go to the core of it to really truly understand this. The gap exists because of the massive head start that whites had. From 1619 to 1865, whites built wealth on the back of blacks, while blacks failed to be able to partake in that. On the eve of the Civil War, somewhere around 1860, blacks owned roughly around 1 to 1.5% of the wealth, total wealth in this country. That hasn't changed. And why it hasn't changed is that when you possess wealth at an exorbitant level, you also possess power. Let me explain something to you. Power is not based solely on what is to be considered wealth by any particular individual or group. Power is possessed and wielded based on how much wealth you have in comparison to others outside of your specific enclave or group. So in other words, having $1 million means absolutely nothing when you're trying to develop, build, or establish power when someone else has 100 million. So you can have what people consider wealth, but if you don't have the predominance of the wealth, then you still lack the ability to establish power. And if you don't know how to take what you do have and to leverage that to grow more and more, and subsequently gain an increasing level of influence and power within your scope, it only gets worse. But what we have to look at when we're talking about this wealth gap is we cannot allow outsiders, first of all, and those who are mouthpieces among us for outsiders to come in and present the argument that we're just poor spenders. Yes, we have a problem with consumerism. It's been inbred in us. It's how we deal with the lack of power and lack of wealth. We have been trained to look like it. And there may be arguments on both sides of that coin of how it does, but you got to have a plan. If you want to look like it before you be like it, have a plan of how you're going to get there. Not just walking around feeling good because you look like it. See, the good feeling has to come from I am becoming what I know I can, not that I look like I know what I know I can be. If you need to look like it in order to focus and get motivated behind it, I can understand that. I teach that. My whole thing is, can you see it strongly enough within yourself to actually take action to change it, is the question. But when we're talking about this wealth gap was created because 246 years, especially in the South, but not exclusively in the South, white people built entire industries off of the back of blacks, while blacks were not allowed to participate in it. After slavery ended in 1865, we had 12 years of Reconstruction, which again, blacks had to deal with black codes, and eventually in Jim Crow segregation. After we went through Reconstruction, they had to deal with redlining, benign neglect, urban renewal, and ultimately now gentrification, mass incarceration, convict leasing. All of these components, these mechanisms and machinations were put into place to keep blacks from being able to build wealth. Even now, black home ownership is lower percentage-wise than white home ownership, and even in the instance in which there are black homeowners who own homes that are comparable to white homeowners, those homes don't get appraised for resale value at the resale or remortgaging at the same rate or level as their white counterparts with comparable homes. In other words, if you take very similar homes, you call them comparables, you run comps on them, you should get like pricing. The thing is, it has been proven, studies have been done, that appraisers go in, and if there are signs that the homeowners are black, the appraisal comes in lower than if the homeowner is white. And on the flip side of that, appraisal districts for tax purposes actually appraise black homes higher than whites. So you can't sell your house for the same value, or you can't gain a net value on your home equal to whites, but you pay a higher tax rate for the same home. than the whites do for their same home. And so you got, oh wow, I didn't know that happened. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know how long it happened, but forgive me. I moved it in, so it's shaking. I don't know how long that's been going like that because I was driving and I wasn't looking. But in essence, we have to develop an understanding of what's going on. We cannot be fed this nuclear idea of poor management as the root cause of the wealth gap. No, the wealth gap is because you guys built it on our backs, had a massive head start, and have thrown roadblock after roadblock and obstacle after obstacle in front of us to stop us from gaining footing. You burned down enclaves like Tulsa, which was also known as Black Wall Street. You burned down enclaves like Slocum, Texas, Rosewood, Florida, Wilmington, North Carolina, certain areas in St. Louis. So in essence, there has been a constant assault on the notion of building black wealth. There has been a constant barrage of interferences that have taken place. What we have to do is understand that, yes, we must become better in our own thinking. We must become better in our own practices and behavior when it comes to economics and finance. But we also must be keenly cognizant of the fact that there's an enemy playing a game with us on the outside that we have to deal with. We're going to have to deal with the mechanisms that are in place that allow whites to consistently move against us when it comes to our ability to establish wealth. This isn't about wealth building as much as it is about the manipulation of wealth and how the wealth is obtained. In 2020 alone, somewhere close to $750 billion was left in inheritances, and the vast majority of those inheritances went to whites. Now, a lot of that did so without being taxed. And this 750 billion, get this now, the 750 billion that I'm talking about does not include money left to spouses and to take care of children. This is outside of that scope. So we have to be aware. We've got to sit down. We got to put our minds together. We got to put our egos aside. We got to actually sit down and say, okay, here's what's happening. How do we deal with it? I've put a real strong initiative plan on the site, been there for years, called Blueprint 1.0. I consulted Dr. Claude Anderson. I've spoken with Dr. Boyce Watkins. I pay attention to what they talk about, what they're saying. I've talked with other great financial minds, not just black, but of all races, because anyone who understands it has something that I can get from them. And there is a way to do this, but we have to be more inclusive with one another. We have to be more involved and engaged. There's so much that we don't do as a people and as a unit that harm us. I've said that, and I hope in truth that I'm reaching some of you guys. Look, we've got work to do. We've got so much work to do. I made it to the gym. I'm about to get out, go in, and do what I do. I wish you guys the best. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to do the same. And on that note, show some love also. Support the work we're doing at the Odyssey Project. I'm going to leave on that note. I'm out of here. Peace.